me, nature is the go-to. It's the realignment. Like if something's happened and everything's gotten super busy, I too need a realignment to get me back into the now, and nature will do it in like 2 seconds.
And welcome to the Consciousness of the Way. I'm your humble servant and seafood Taoist Master San Qing. And I know you've heard it all before. One more time. I've come down to the Christmas tree, and sure enough, the universe has brought an incredible being into my life. I want to welcome to the podcast Pink Bella Aloha, quantum healer and Akashic OG, I like to call extraordinaire, deep diving into pulling information out of true source, pure source. Welcome to the podcast, dear friend.
Thank you, son. I'm so grateful to be here. Awesome. Glad that Source connected us today.
Yeah, it really was. It was like instantly connected and resonated with your expression. And that's kind of like how it works for me. A dear friend of mine, Hans Wilhelm, would always say, I'm either contracting or expanding. And, if you're contracting, run for the hills. If you're expanding, move into the light. I don't know. It doesn't get any more simplistic than that. But I would love you to share with the audience a little bit about you and how we got here today.
Sure. Very short version. I think
Everyone,
a mini version.
yeah,
So
yeah.
my business name came from a trip when I was in Maui in 2011, just after the 1111 Gateway. I started to recognize the numerical sequences that year. So I went to Maui that year and I just started connecting in. I was on the beach on my own. And I just said, what are my next steps? And I was given the name, your business name is going to be Pink Bella Aloha Therapy. You're going to be helping clients. And at that point, I was started seeing clients at home. But way before that, it really started when I went, I was talking to Son earlier, had this gift of the universe gave me, because I'm in Canada, gave me an opportunity to go live in Australia for a while. So what I did was I took the long way. I went through Europe. I went down to Egypt. I went through Africa because I'd always wanted to go to Africa. And then I landed in Perth and I was there for almost a year. And when I went, and it really changed in Egypt because out of everyone that I met, the universe brought me a healer that worked it out that I could go and do a meditation at the Sphinx. Back then it was illegal. So I had to pay people to go and do this. Right.
Wow.
We did it at night. Yeah. And this is all going to go in my book. And then, I had this massive download. It wasn't even meditating back then. I had this, it was this huge flash of light, all this power while I was in between the paws of the Sphinx, and everything just turned upside down. And then it took me months to figure out what had happened. And then for 2 years, even when I came back to Canada, I was like, what happened? I had no idea. And everything came to a stop. That's the other interesting thing is I couldn't find a job when I got back to Canada. So that forced me to start going to find answers.
Mm-hmm.
And I found a tarot reader. Well, that was her cover. That's what a lot of us do. We just use the cards as a prop. She just said to me, oh, you're not from here. You're from the Pleiades. You need to go read Bringers of the Dawn. And I was like, what? Because that was before the internet. The internet had just started. So there wasn't any information out there about, star seeds and galactics and all that. So I kind of had a big download about that. That helped me. Then they put me back to sleep so I could go back to corporate. And I worked in corporate for another 10 years.
Wow.
So that's the mini version.
Woo!
Yeah.
It's so interesting. You mentioned starseed. I'm kind of convinced. Now you can tell me if I'm wrong. I could swear that Dolores Cannon's pulled that out of the sky. Or where did starseed come from?
I got the name starseed from my team. So we talked about social media. So my mini journey was I studied and remembered about the archangels. I went and became a Reiki master. And again, Son and I were talking about this. I went through training to really remember who I am, who we all are, and the abilities that we have. So that's kind of where that came. Then I had to do a house move in 2016, and I was guided to pack up my entire healing system that I wasn't going to be seeing people at home anymore, that I was going to be seeing people online. And within 6 months, when I was out, I would always get to go on these clarity walk meditations. The Palladians started coming back in, and I was like, oh yeah, see ya, don't need to talk to you. See you later. And they're like, no, Pink Bella, it's time to talk to us again. And they gave me the name Starseed. Now, at that point, I had no idea that others out there were talking about starseeds, because I don't think I even found Dolores Cannon till later, like after that, you know what I mean? So I think what they shared with me, and I agree with you, like I think the words are like key codes, so people find each other.
Yeah.
Like I'm not stuck on like I'm a starseed, you're not a starseed, or like, you know,
Yeah,
that's not a cool word or whatever. I was told like that's a key word for people to find me, to work with me. That's
yeah,
what
I find it fascinating because I had her in my ear probably about maybe 2 months, 3 months ago. She wouldn't leave me alone for like
Dolores Cannon.
two
Yeah.
or
She comes
three,
in every once in a while. She's very
2 or
powerful.
3 weeks, just going on about how people are not applying her connection to her conscious, super conscious, whatever. She said that it's not being applied the same way she taught people. I'm like, okay, what do you want me to do about it? It's like okay.
Dolores,
and then I was
you left too early.
well, I kind of
the party was just getting started.
I kind of filtered that one. All right, okay, you're Dolores Cannon. I can feel the resonance. Let me check out what are you talking about. So I went and I took a look.
Yeah.
And supposedly, just before she physically died, a lot of her the way she would like put people into a somnambulistic state of like trance deep into
the keyword HT, right? The quantum.
Yeah. So about 2012, 2013, people were claiming, I'm more conscious. I don't have to go as deep. And she's like, no. She's like, no. People are missing 2 points out of the 5 that I teach people. I'm like, really? I don't know. You know, what do you want me to do with this?
Well, she left early. When you leave the party early, people just do whatever they want with your work.
Right. I found it interesting that she was still earthbound. And then this other character came in, this guy by the name of Art Bell. And I thought,
oh yes, I just had a conversation about Art Bell a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, he was blasting me out because he's not so far down in Nevada in the desert here, where he used to transmit his radio show from out here in the desert in Nevada.
Yeah, I did some research about him.
So what an interesting cat. But I mean, his admission was, I didn't. In a summation, I didn't die of natural causes. Okay. Do I really want to go there on that one, my friend? I'm kind of good.
This other show that I do, that we've been deep diving into certain people that have left, and he was one of them. And I'm trying to remember. I think that's what came in for him. I think like they like to come to me too. And I don't mind talking to them because I'm curious, right? I'm like I'm like a reporter. Yeah. So I think with him, and I learned a lot about him, was that he found out how dark the industry was that he was in, and he was trying to share the truth, and there were other people that were managing the radio stations that didn't want that. So that's what I got. I did get that it was a mysterious transition.
Yeah, I mean, he started going down that path. I was like, well, let me stop you, man. I don't have enough time right now.
I know.
Maybe I'll get back to it. You just keep on keeping. How about you just go off? You go off now and find someone else to.
I just did a deep dive about Janis Joplin and Jimi Hendrix and Jim Morrison, because I was young when they did their music, but I loved I just loved their whole. I just love the way they just came in and they transformed everything in like 3 years.
Is there a coincidence? Correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't both of those guys die at the age of 27?
All 3 of them did, and they all knew each other.
Hang on. Who was the
I'm going to be doing another deep dive on my own about them, because my feeling is that what I got from Janis is that she was wide awake. Her third eye was open. She was wide awake.
So who was the other person?
Jimi Hendrix and Jim Morrison of the Doors.
Jim Morrison. They all died at 27.
Yeah, and they all died within I think a month of each other.
Because.
So now you and I can look at it and go, well, that's not coincidental.
Well, that's a very powerful number from a Taoist perspective, because 9 is the most powerful number. So,
well, they shared with me individually that they chose, like, that 27 club basically came from the 3 of them transitioning, and then there's been more people after that they chose that was a potential way for them to leave. to be
Mm.
part of that historical 27 number, that was a potential for them to transition. But everything was mysterious around all of them. Of course. But Janice was amazing. I just did her a week ago. I loved her too.
Like,
I always loved her
like
energy.
this grit and
Oh yeah.
this word that you used earlier, authentic. She was
Oh
super
yeah. Well, I could see
hard.
she came from Texas and she was just like, I'm not going to do what they've told me to do. I'm not going to get married and have children and see you later, going to LA, like that was it. And she also busted all the belief systems in the music industry, because up until then there really hadn't been like a powerful female presence that could level up and tell all the guys, like, get lost. I'm doing my own thing, kind of thing. So yeah, she
One
was
of my
really.
favorite songs of hers was "Move Over" or "Move On Over."
Yes.
It's like
Oh yeah, so powerful.
so good, just like the absolute essence of all things. It's just yeah.
Very talented, very
Yeah.
talented. I did try to ask her whether or not her transition was, you know, planned, not by her. And she wouldn't give me an answer, not yet. Like that's the thing, that they'll just want to talk what they want to talk about. She didn't want to talk about that. But she did say that she was surrounded by entities at the end. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, I
Yeah.
wanted to share that with you. They do pop in. That's interesting about Dolores
Yeah,
Cannon
yeah.
and
I
Art
mean,
Bell.
I might have to look her up because I've always been a super fan of hers. But
Yeah.
probably
She was the last one out of the three. So Jim passed away in July. Jimi Hendrix passed away early September,
Mhm.
and Janice early October.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's what was it? Bruce Lee came to me on his 50th anniversary of his
Oh,
death,
I
and
didn't get a chance to look at your videos, but I saw that there was some Bruce Lee
he
information.
went right into the curse and the death of like how he ended up like losing his physical life and his sons and everything. It was like, whoa.
I
The
know it's a
price
lot.
you pay. It was literally, basically, not even literally, basically, he was confessing his contract that he made with this entity for fame
Yeah.
and fortune, which ultimately
Yes.
took his life because he refused to comply with the demands, which was, I need you to create a following, and from that following, we will literally, a Bob Monroe term, loosh from their energy. And
Yes.
so he was like, basically, I can't do that. I can't do that. And they're like, well, you're going to be famous. You just won't be alive.
Yeah. I think out of the
They're
three of
still
them,
doing it anyway. They're still looshing from his
I
energy.
know.
So
This is all the deep dive stuff that I had to get into in the last since 2020 when the lockdowns happened. My guys were like, okay, now you need to do some deep dives into all this like nefarious stuff going on behind the scenes and behind all these industries, and because you're going to have clients coming forward. It was like, I was like, no, I don't want to look at it. I just want to stay in love and light and be in la la land. And they said, oh yeah, don't worry, you could do that, but you have to know what's been going on. And
yeah,
what I got when I did the Jim Morrison reading was that's why he left LA and went to Paris, because there was someone, I don't know who it was, they came to him with the like, we need you to do this, and he's like, I'm out of here. So they were really early, the people who were in the 60s, like they became really famous, they were really in the early on stages of not understanding how the machine worked in that industry as well, right? So I think a lot of them made agreements, like Bruce Lee. I think they probably made agreements, but they didn't realize what they were making an agreement with.
yeah. I mean, that was his
Yeah,
question. That's pretty much what he said. I
yeah.
mean, the big thing was, that today, if you just look at the news today, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole, but I mean, holy moly,
Oh,
it's all coming out, and it's like, and people are like, oh yeah, you didn't know about this? It's been going on since the beginning of Hollywood. I'm like, that makes sense. I mean,
it does, and
I had
it does,
fun.
especially because Judy Garland was one of my favorite actresses, and I was always mesmerized by what turned her upside down so early. And then a few years ago, I thought, I bet you it's all connected. I bet you they all get to a point where it gets incredibly traumatic, like the pressure on them of what they're expected to comply with. and they turn to alcohol or other substances to block it all out because they've made these agreements. Yeah, I know, because
Wild.
it is. It's well, and it's sad too, but it's part of why we came. It's part of why, like we were just sharing before we got on, it's part of why we're trying to not just work with people who are healers or who are in the this community who understand about it. A lot of people are starting to move over to I need to be healed. The regular system's not working for me. That's how I started. I started having allergies to foods like at age 5, because in Canada we receive a lot of foods from the US. And at that point, when I look back on it in the history, they started to spray a lot of things on the foods that they were bringing into Canada, and I started reacting to the toxins really early on. So,
Right.
but I didn't blame anyone, because it just brought me deeper into I have to find other answers for me. Like I have to.
I was going to say, do you use geometry at all in your stuff, or
Sacred geometry? Sometimes I don't think about it too much anymore. Okay, so I'm a bit of a fast tracker. I understand multidimensionally what it all is, and I just ask source to bring in what I need.
Hmm.
So
Oh, no. I get that. Listen,
yeah,
ladies and gentlemen, she's an OG.
I'm a fast tracker.
She's a fast tracker. I call myself a fast tracker. I absorb everything around me, but
Yeah,
I'm talking more like, for example, people. I'll create. I actually have a product where it immediately creates a vortices that will attune your whole land, property, house, everything
okay.
with that direct energy. So it has
It's like
18.
is that like a Merkaba?
Well, I guess you could call it that. I mean, the most sacred geometry is the circle. So you get, when you receive this vortices,
Yeah.
it comes in a little box. All the stones are wrapped up in this velvet case. You open it up, you lay it in a circle, and all of a sudden your face gets blown off. Then you add the plate. There's a plate that you add in the middle of the vortices, and it just ramps up the amplitude to a million. And so basically, when I first started tuning these things for people, it turns off their Wi-Fi. It's like they don't have Wi-Fi in their house. They're like, "What the? This is
That would
nuts."
explain why my Wi-Fi got turned off this morning, son.
But this is the attunement, and so you program it to adjust. But generally speaking, and then I'll have the individual put in other things that they want. So it's always there. So it's basically like, imagine having a stream as if you had like a fire hydrant that was going off that never stopped.
Yeah.
And so
yeah.
you get this moment where you walk away from it going, oh yeah, he probably hypnotized me to feel this way, blah blah blah,
Oh.
and then they'll walk away, come back and go, oh, it hasn't moved, and it's actually, I just feel high. It's like permeating every part of my space, my being. And I use these a lot. I used to use them a lot for people that wanted ground, like land, to start growing fruit and vegetables.
Right.
And so you just drop this vortices down, it permeates the soil, and you can grow anything in something.
That's fantastic.
That's where I was, and just for everyone on the channel, now, of course, you could adapt to this and create it.
Yeah.
But, most people, these vortices are really powerful because they don't go anywhere. So they'll take them with them. And if they're in a hotel, they'll open it up in a hotel.
Yeah, like it's a travel kit.
Completely, in tune with the whole space that you're in. And it doesn't go anywhere. So it's kind of like it kind of does put you and I out of business, because literally someone put us there and they can put it on the ground and sit on it and go, well, I got an instant healing. It's like,
that's
holy
what
crap.
We're all doing anyway. We're empowering, when I work with people, I'm empowering them to get to where they need to be ASAP.
Right.
Like, I don't want somebody coming to me for 3 years unless they need a rah-rah. I want to be able to help them align with their highest frequency. And how I work is I'm like a flame keeper. I think that was another, from another reality, maybe Atlantis, I'm not sure. But I work with source before a session, and I attune different flames and rays for the individual. I'm told what to bring in, and I feel like those flames and rays are bringing in what they need. It's bringing in their sacred geometry. It's bringing in like the transmuting and the healing and the alignment, because I've seen my sessions elevate and like align people quickly because some people come to me and they've just lost their job and they're they need something quickly, and it does shift everything around for them. So it's just made me it's made me just realize, like, I'm just here to assist and elevate people to remember more who they are and how they can get to where they need to go. So that's kind of my version, but I like your version too. And I do space clearing too. I do property clearing too, but then I use the flames and the rays. And I started remembering to work with the dragons in 2017. They're my besties because right now I'm living in a high rise, which I always get moved into an assignment. So my assignment right now is a high rise facing a shopping center. So I'm the grid keeper and the gatekeeper for this area. And some weird things started happening last September. The game got ramped up. And so that's when the dragons kind of stepped in and said, we need to work with you more deeply now, and we'll start closing dark portals that are in the area. So that's what I'm doing as well. So I kind of move into this. I have no fear now. I just figure out, like, what's going on. What do I need to do? How do I need to be the director to, take care of the area that I'm in right now?
Yeah. I mean, it kind of gets to that point, for us, we use the feng shui. I just find all the vortices, high and low, power centers, the ley lines, and then but one of these vortices, once you get it, it just goes through I found it really interesting because I interviewed a few people that they literally have companies, and they make what they call proprietary technology.
Yes.
And I would love you to measure, because they're like, I measure. I'm like, I'll do the Pepsi challenge with anybody on this stuff. I promise you'll rock yourself when you apply my vortices versus your vortices, whatever it is. And, there's a level of, I would say, proverbial BS where the people are saying it's one thing, but it's not actually. Like, I know something.
Well, probably me 20 years ago would have wanted to have all of that stuff, right? Like all the shiny bells and whistles. Yeah. And now I'm more like with you. Like, I just became like, okay, I'm going to be out there walking. I can't be packing around a lot of stuff. I can take some crystals with me, but it's just me and my team and whatever I'm being guided to do, right. So right. Yeah. And I call grid work the same as you. Like, I use work on the ley lines and the vortices and
people are like literally like selling these, what they call technology. I'm like, so what is it? I know that when I measure someone around the vortices that I will imprint and generate, it's like literally like opening up the heavens, and you have it's different. It's not the same electromagnetic spectrum that we're speaking of within a 3D reality. Yeah, it's an altering state. It even goes beyond a scalar wave. It's like, it's pure source. That's what it is. And, hey, look, it's there. It doesn't leave you. I mean, the density of it is experiential. Like, the second you open this thing up, it's almost like that scene that you see in Indiana Jones where he sees the golden skull and the light lights up, or you're in Pulp Fiction and they open the case and they're like, the light blows. That's exactly what happens when you reveal one of these vortices.
That's so cool. That's really cool.
And, it's like, but some of these other people are like, oh, yeah, it's I've got this technology. I'm like, well, just show me. I want to see it. I want to experience it. I don't need to be where you are.
Well, I've had clients come to me that have some of that technology and it's not working for them. Like, they're still their energy and their space is still,
and I think
they're still feeling like they're under, they have entities and under energy attacks. And I've had to go through all of that to become this goddess warrior. So I know how to shield up even in a multi-level complex, like basically. So wherever I go, I know I can just be in my own little bubble. That's why I asked you about the Merkaba. Some people call it stargates. And I know that there's a million ways.
There's a million ways, million shapes. It all mutates from the same ancient geometry, which is a circle, all transmuted or a variable of the same thing. It's all part of the slither of the consciousness, and it depends on who's tuning into what and to what degree of the juice that you're accessing. That's all. Yeah. And as everyone levels up, they get their own access point. But sometimes it's conceptual for a lot of people until otherwise noted, and that's okay. That's where they
Yeah, that's right. I feel like that's
are.
it. Some people need like the tools, a lot of tools to begin with. I feel like that's even why, like, when I had to pack up my healing space
Mm.
and just start doing everything remotely and online, that was a big leap of faith and deep trust in like my abilities and my connection with source. And I still had to go through a lot of, I was saying to sound like initiations to make sure I was in my integrity. So whatever gifts I was given, I wasn't going to be using for, I call it the dark side or whatever we want to call them. And then I love, like, within the last couple of years that I understand, like, it's a whole Star Wars bar scene down here. there's all sorts of characters walking around in humanoid suits that are not human. Like that was like a mind blower for me as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, for me, channeling for 30 years, normally it was spirits and entities. It's part of the game, right?
Hmm.
But then maybe in the last 6 months to a year, I've seen more aliens in the last 6 months and a year than I have in 30 years. And
I know.
so I don't really, the way you sort of do this stuff to really attune is to be, the observer, and
Absolutely.
whatever
Yeah.
comes in, like when I'm doing something with someone, that what will be most prominent or representative of their true resonance will shape shift throughout their energetic and aura. And in most cases, you look at someone and they might have a really high resonance with God, and Jesus morphs in, and then there's variables of these particular angels. It depends on who's in front of me, or it
Yeah.
could be a Jesus Buddha combo, Christ consciousness, or whatever it is. And that's always been the case for me when I'm looking at people's auras. But then lately, and I've never seen this before, literally hundreds, thousands of aliens. Like, not I'm expecting, some sort of enlightened sort of like angel or something like that. And next minute it's like a reptilian alien. I'm like,
Yes.
whoa.
Yeah.
And,
So
and
that
it's
so
like,
that's like when I go within, that's what they've been sharing with me the last 6 months. Like that so we're going to be seeing so much of that now. And I think it's because what's happening is it's coming online for the individuals even that you're working for. Like they're not even aware of it, but it's literally this old imprint in their spinal system and the reptilian brain that's coming online, and some of them are connected to lineages that were more reptilian than others. So yeah, I've had all sorts of. I just kind of go, oh, that's cool, like that's good, right? Yeah. So I was going to ask you. So are you seeing them like within people's
yeah,
quantum fields,
normally,
or are you seeing them walking around your town?
normally it's, when I'm in the presence of someone else, it will shape shift in and out of that person's aura.
Okay.
And so,
Well, that makes sense because they are shapeshifters.
they can't it can be separate from the individual. Absolutely. I mean, I've been dealing with entities consciously for 30 years.
So yeah, okay.
Exorcisms are sort of like a normal day in the office, but I can spend 10 years. I could have a fire sale on what I call low watt frequencies. I can have a fire sale on it, and it's like literally, the 50th anniversary of The Exorcist or something. Next minute, every person's coming in with their Hollywood fantasy version of what they're pulling into their own field. Because I like to remind people, this is your reality is subject to you. Your belief
Yeah.
system is the generator of the very entities you're drawing into your field that you're experiencing, whether it's in a workplace, a home, personal environment, a public space. You're tuning into these entities, and they're like presenting themselves. They're like, hello, you were looking for me. That's kind of like how it works.
Yeah.
And so you get these variables, and yeah, there's just a lot that are shape shifting. And I mean, they're not just reptilians. They're, buggy eyed, long blue people, long, tall, white, it's just, there's a myriad of different types of aliens that I've seen, lions and
Yeah.
lion men and all this kind of weird stuff. I'm like, holy
Yeah. A
shit.
lot of Lyran energy started kind of showing up last year.
Mm. Yeah,
So yeah, I that was an aspect of myself I had to, like, I've been integrated all these different galactic aspects, and that one didn't show up until last year.
yeah.
And
I mean,
apparently the Lyran aspects, the lion people, were not, well, like, were like exited out of their home. their homeland. The planets, one of the big planets imploded. There was a big galactic battle, and so Lyrans were like running around all over the place. So they, so I wasn't. I guess I wasn't ready to look at that till last year, but yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
it's super interesting that you're seeing
yeah,
it. I
right.
love that. That's great confirmation.
Yeah,
Um,
I found it, you know,
Well, as you were sharing that with me, I thought I'm going to go to the shopping mall and just sit there and just watch people now. Like when
yeah,
I have a moment to do that, because I had an individual in my reality for 8 years on the other in the Mediterranean, and every time I went to see him, he looked different. And it didn't. It just came to me last year that he was a shapeshifter, and then I tapped in that his lineage was very reptilian. And I asked, I
well,
thought, did he know? And they're like, no, doesn't know.
well, I mean, shape shifting is a also a skill. Like we teach people how to shape shift in Taoism. You know, it's not
Well, this
it's
I agree.
illusory, but I would say
I
that
agree, but I don't think that I like looking back on the energy of this island. It
mm,
was very reptilian.
yeah. I was going
Yeah,
to say for the
yeah,
audience, you're speaking on something a little different. This
yes,
particular entities that are similar in the same sort of category of
yeah,
reptilian type beings that
yeah.
would be
That
considered
was
a little
like
bit more,
boom.
yeah, a little bit more ominous, right? Yeah, no, I mean, my teacher Latsu, whenever I channel him, it's an interesting one. If I do a direct one, it's always sort of I'm in counsel with him all day long. He's always
Oh,
my
I love that.
advisor, speaking to me second by second. But generally speaking, if I channel him and I want to just do a session, the funny thing is, like when we entered 2024, a lot of people were like, "Oh my goodness, what's happening? It's at the end of the world, financial destruction." Da, da, da. And he was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, okay, let me help you out," because he's a little cheeky, Latsu. It's like it's quite interesting, and he's like, "Just imagine you're a grain of sand, and you're asking the universe, or you're asking the beach, what are we doing today?" And he's like, "Why don't you drop and fall back into the beach and be realized?" And they're like, "Oh."
Whoa.
And I was like, "Man, I
Yeah,
couldn't make this wise sort of like oversight. If someone paid me and put a gun to my head, I wouldn't be able to come up with that stuff." I'm like, "Wow, that's
yeah.
like so like
So
profound."
deep. So yeah, I was
Right,
gonna say
right,
so deep, so profound.
right, right.
And I I think that's the thing, like even a lot of the communities that everyone's been going to the last few years to get like other information besides the mainstream, they're also in this perpetual vortex of drama and doomsday. And even right before the solar eclipse, so many people were like, they were losing it. And I just kept putting out content saying, just breathe, like unplug. Like that's what I was told to do. I was told to unplug, go meditate, because it didn't come over Vancouver, but it was cloud cover anyway. And I just thought, I'm not going to buy. Why are you all buying into the doomsday drama scenario? You're all supposed to be smarter than this. Like, why are you falling for this like story? And of course, it was fine. It's
Well,
fine.
of course it was. I mean, Latsu said this whole 2024, unfortunately, people want death and destruction. What did he call it? He called it rinse, wash, and repeat.
Oh
Unfortunately,
yeah,
that's not going to happen. He goes, I hate to be the bearer of reality, but the truth is, it's only going to get better, and you're going to get a
yeah,
bigger smile,
yeah,
and you're going to be happier and more resonant with this universal love that we speak of. And people are like, huh? Well, I
yeah.
thought, no, everything's gonna fall in the heap. We're gonna die.
No, well,
It's an election and blah,
yeah,
blah,
when I
blah,
asked
blah,
Source
blah.
about that, Source is always like, why would we want to put you all through more trauma than you've already been through? That's all Earth has been through. It's been through trauma. Like, why would we want to do something where everyone is going to go through another wave of huge, massive trauma? And I was like, well, that sounds good to me. So
Well,
I always set intentions for the collective now too. I always set intentions for those people that are getting stuck in this cycle of doomsday. Like, I hope that they can level up, and just like if we all put good intentions out there for everyone, it's going to be fantastic. It's going to be amazing.
here's an interesting one. So I just had. You're familiar with the Schumann resonance?
Yes.
Okay, so I just had just the other day. I had this incredible being on, and she reads that. That's what she does for a living. So it's kind of cool.
That is really
You know,
cool. Yeah.
my Schumann resonance is Latsu, because when he talks about when he does any sort of like reading, it's like, okay, your highest point is going to be this day. This will be a transmission of this element, and you will receive the emotional state of this. And so he speaks of that due to the amplitude of the transmission from the sun affecting the earth and the moon. And this will be a rippling effect into this very moment. And if you stand in the direction of this particular state, this will be realized. And I'm like, I so much prefer the simplicity of how he perceives things, because it makes it, and everyone goes, oh my goodness, on that day, I couldn't believe how amazing it was, and all these other things happened, and it all aligned for me, and da, 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 da. And then it's like simplistic. But she, even through her own research and understanding, he said it's only getting better from here. She actually read the brain, the actual wave of the Hertz frequency, right?
Right.
So how we correlate that is the Hertz frequency, she can see an actual man-made manipulation where the resonance of the earth is like a 7.8, something like that, 7.8,
7.82, I think, yeah.
Which is basically around a theta brainwave, right? So then you go from, it's alpha or theta, one of the two. You go from that.
I think it's theta. Yeah, I think it's theta.
And so you go from that, and then people are altering it. She can see a massive pulsating surge where they're bringing the wave, the actual hertz, up to like 12 to 20, which is all high beta, which means high anxiety, hyper focus, hyper like myopically like overload. And so she's like, I'm seeing some other foreign force that's bringing in the hertz frequency of the earth, playing with the magnetism of it. And she's like, someone's screwing with this. And then she's seeing that through the relationship with the sun, that over the next 2 years, it will continue to get higher, probably about 40 or 50 hertz, which is all gamma, which is just highly conscious, which makes absolute sense from what Latsu told me. Yes. I'm pretty sure your guides are probably telling you the same thing.
Well, I was just going to ask you if she said if she noticed that it had changed, because that's what I had when people first started looking at it.
Yeah.
Maybe 2014, 15, that's what they were sharing, is that the stable Hertz level was changing because the earth was raising her frequency as well. So that makes sense.
So she's like, she can see the data.
I love it.
That it's just getting higher. And of course, from me, I don't know whether you measure EEGs, but I normally measure like within doing physical healings. I spent a long time accumulating data, and I get anywhere. I can go from 100 to 400 hertz. And so people are like, then they get caught up. I said, listen, you need to not get caught up, because a lot of people are like, well, there's a scale. Who's that guy? There's some professor or something put a scale of consciousness. I can't even remember his name, Dawson or something like that. Okay. And Stephen Dawkins, I don't know.
I'm not sure. Yeah,
anyway, he has this scale, and people go, oh, the perfect hertz frequency for consciousness is 968 hertz. And no, 963. What an interesting number, 963.
963,
anyway.
Yeah.
And so, and I'm
isn't that connected to Tesla?
Well, it's the numerology of the universe. For Taoists, the number 9 is the most powerful. But the bottom line is I can witness physical healing before my very eyes within the range that I transmute in when I'm channeling Latsu or whatever, and it's between 100 and 400 hertz. So what I'm getting at for the audience is, do not be so caught up. You'll know when you're there, and we
love our numbers and our data. Like, there are people out there, they just could read charts and all day, and that's not me, but I do. The reason I asked you about the numbers is because I like to see the correlation of the numbers when I'm out in the world. I've been reading like license plate messages since I was a kid, so I just like to see the different it's a game, right? It's just a fun game, but yeah, that's good. I learned today about the 9 and the Taoism. I didn't know that.
And it's interesting because
my birthday is the 9th.
Oh, now what does it take? How many months does it take to create a human life? I'm not sure.
9 months.
Oh, really? Oh, and then we talk about that within Taoism. We talk about the most profound state, the present moment, is between the breath in and the breath out. We call it the Wu Ji, the stillness. and that's
Yes.
the mother. Let me repeat: the mother of
Mother.
all things is the
Yeah.
Tao. Hang on,
Yeah.
what did I say? What the mother? No, no, no. I didn't say the granddaddy of the
No, the
Moses
mother.
of the gray hair and the gray
The
beard.
divine
No,
mother.
I said the mother. And within Taoism, and that charge you got, it's like, hey, we
Yeah.
know, we know what's up. And within Taoism, it's very true because that's the epicenter of all things. And so within, we have a ritual where we use a Ru Yi or Ryu, and the scepter of that for this healing is in the shape of a uterus, which is the
Okay.
epicenter of the universe and creation of all things. And so we go deep on this stuff, and people are like,
That's right.
oh,
I
I just
know.
got that. Holy crap. I might be a Taoist. Who knows? Whatever it
Right.
is, you're attuned to understanding that, well, I ain't twisted. I know where this comes from. Let's get
Yeah.
real. And I think
Yeah.
that's where there's a removal, because the most powerful energy within Taoism is separating the electric from magnetic. And the magnetic fluidity, the yin energy, which is the most potent, you access all things, the spirit world, intuition,
Yeah.
instant healing, all that stuff comes from yin energy. And so when you elevate your consciousness and clairvoyant senses, you activate what we call the yin eyes. And then all bets are off because you are off to the races, my friend. And
That's
so,
right.
I think a lot of people get twisted, and it's not a battle between good and bad where people look at yin and yang as up and down, in and out, polarizing effect. There is to a degree, but we don't look at darkness as evil. It is
Yeah.
nothing more than another expression of pure source.
Yeah.
Where
And
a
I
lot
think
of
that that's why I had to learn about it, because I didn't want to know about it. Like I just wanted to go about my, I started off with like angel readings and Reiki and crystals, and I'm still there, but I needed that as part of my education to understand what some people, like what you're sharing, what you're seeing in some of your clients, what some people are grappling with and dealing with.
well,
So I
that's I
had I
mean,
had to go through some of my own experiences, so I understood that it is that there's the game down here. There's a lot going on. There's a
well,
lot
it's
of
the duality. It's a
yes,
subject to duality. I mean,
yeah,
within Taoism, it's like two sides of a mountain. One is yin, one is yang. You go up the
yes,
mountain, and you become realized all with all things. And
yeah.
that's kind of like the much deeper understanding of Taoism is is that center point. That's where all the magic
Coming
happens,
back into center. That's
right?
right.
The center
So
of the center of the center.
so when I went really got put into a deep like training period before the lockdown, so like I would say 2017 to 2020, I went through another training period after that, but looking back on it, I actually lived in an area that was very much like a Men in Black galactic center, but I didn't know at the time. But all I knew is that I had a really peaceful space to live in. But when I walked outside, it was pandemonium, and I had to walk from my door to the train station. And I was in training every day. I was in training, like, how can I get from here to there without getting involved in all of this stuff? Like, it was intense. And, but I learned so much. And after I left that area, came back out to nature. I'm still in a busy area, but a different area. It's just, they just had put me through a really intense training period for a short period of time. And they said, oh yeah, by the way, that was like, Men in Black, when he goes to he learns all about all the beings. He said, that's where you were. So now I go into the city and I just think it's great. It's great fun because I don't know who I'm going to come across or what's going on. But they don't bother me. I don't bother them and they don't bother me. I'm just aware of all different beings being in, especially in cities. There's lots of different beings in cities for
There's
sure.
a lot of different.
A lot of different energies. Well, and what I've been learning from the grid work I've been doing is that the fighting is still over. It's like the land thing. They're still fighting over the grids and different areas to keep
Well, this is
control of certain areas, right? So,
Yeah, I
yeah,
think this is interesting. You mentioned the grid work, how
yeah,
you apply it. Like within Taoist ritual, we use it within basically a bagua, and we lay down the grid. We use star stepping, the constellation patterns,
oh,
to
cool,
acquire the attunement of that particular constellation, star, planet, whatever. And so this is what we call star stepping magic. So how do you apply the grid for yourself?
Okay, so I realized I was unconsciously doing grid work my whole life. Like that's why I just ended up in a family where we traveled all the time, and I was always off to different places where there were powerful vortexes, and I had no idea. So I became conscious of it when I moved into this area in 2017, and I started working with different galactic teams. Obviously, there were light ships in the area. They were communicating with me, and they would just say, "We need you to go grid the city." So I would go out every night on foot, and I would just, and it was safe, the areas I went, because I used to live and work down there as well, like a long time ago. So I knew where they were guiding me to go, but I didn't even know I was doing grid work then until later as well. But that they shared with me later, there were 6 of us that were living in the city that were being guided to go and kind of go in different areas and move the energy and clear the energy. So that was the early days. Now I work with the dragons as well, and I work with the flames. But again,
Mm.
I always ask for direction, like what they want me to do and where they want me to go. And I usually send the energy for transmutation ahead of me wherever I want to go. So for me, it's fun. Like I also do remote gridding. I do stuff. I create crystal grids at home for certain areas as
Oh,
well.
beautiful.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, it really is. It's quite crazy how quickly you apply this stuff. Like I was talking about that vortices
yeah.
that I use these particular pieces, these 18 pieces, the specific stones
I love that.
to create that
Oh,
geometry.
18 is another very powerful number too, correct?
What's that?
18 is a very powerful
Oh
number too,
yeah, yeah.
correct?
Well, yeah. I mean, we go through the whole spectrum of all those numbers. It's never ending. Within the Tao Te Ching that I just transcribed for Latsu for 2024, we go into the magical register because that's what it is. So
Okay.
basically, the Tao Te Ching is a magical register. Each verse is an incantation. From each incantation comes 81 levels of consciousness, and each level is attuned to a certain hertz frequency. And
That
so
makes
people are
sense.
like,
That makes
holy
sense. Yeah.
moly, that may, and I mean, you can instantly go, hang on a second, that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And like that goes hand in hand with the initiations that they've been putting me through, and even everyone's that is experiencing ascension symptoms, they're really having their density like pushed out of their body to raise the frequency into crystalline to be more like a high frequency too. So that is super cool. I love that.
Yeah, when you read it, you either read it or sing it. So it's in English, Mandarin, and Pinyin, so you can sing along to it. And you sort of like normally I give people a crash course on a little bit of pronunciation, but generally speaking, even if you want to sing the English version, you're like, holy crap! Like I'm high as a kite. All I did was mention a few words, and it's like got my whole body vibrating. Whew!
I love that.
That's what we're talking about. Secret sauce up in here, and it,
Yeah,
it
absolutely.
the talisman that comes with it is a direct portal. So when you look at the Tao Te Ching, it's like the talisman is what we use is called the sacred infinite flower, and that evokes the whole what we call the Wuji infinite body, which is it polarizes. I'm a little biased. It polarizes any Kundalini experience, but hey, it's all proof of the pudding. I want to do the Pepsi challenge on this one. I'll show you. And so when
Yeah,
you activate it,
yeah. And I feel like I've received a lot of my downloads about the galactics, even from all the movies and Star Trek. I was a big Star Trek fan when it first came out as well. And I just started asking. So that's how I got into the quantum Akashic records, like where I actually can get into the galactic records as well. I just started asking a lot of questions. I'm like a reporter. And I just ask source, who can I talk to? Who can who can share with me and be the liaison so I can ask a lot of questions,
well,
and
this is a
they'll give me they'll say to me, "Oh, well, try this. You can do this." And I'll be like, "Okay." So I'll go and try something.
this is a perfect entree into that. Let's talk a little bit about the Akashic records and
Okay.
what does that mean to you? How do you normally access it? What
I
do you
probably do
refrain
it
from?
very indirectly compared to other people. So I
Yeah,
just accepted that it was part of my gifts. So
yeah,
I
yeah.
think I started when I was in the city, the area that I lived in was really dense. Like there were office buildings with 5G towers, and I would wake up feeling suffocated in my little apartment, even though it was nice. So I would just go walk, or I would take transit to go somewhere in nature. And I called them clarity walks. So then I would actually ask, who can I work with today that will bring me information? And at that point, they probably were galactics, but they came in and they said they were Archangel Michael and Archangel Metatron. And they just said, we're going to retrain you on how to access the Akashic records, and you're going to help clients by reading their records. So I did it for myself. They put me through this rigmarole every single day. I think it was for like 3 months. And then I started to apply that to client sessions as well. And of course I only access before a session. I ask them to be open and I seal them up afterwards. And of course I'm in integrity. I wouldn't be able to, and I've said to people, I don't access your records unless you book a session. I'm not interested. I don't, it's not my business to go and snoop into other people's information. And it's not a part of integrity either. I just thought like that's not being integral. So then after that, I was able to start accessing the galactic and the intergalactic, but I had to go through a period of the Atlantean Lemurian clearing and healing as well. So, and of course, even when I work with starseeds and I work with higher chakra systems, I've kind of started toning that down a little bit too. I don't share a lot about what we're doing in the background when I'm taking clients through their quantum healing and meditation for alignment, because what I've noticed is this escapism for many starseeds. They just want to leave and go home. So they just want to know the easiest way, ABC, what do I need to do? What system, what numerical system do I need to leave to go home, kind of thing. So I'm just trying to bring them more back into the now moment so they can create their new reality and get moving. So with me, I started delving into asking questions for myself. What was there? What had I done before? And then they brought me the information that, oh, Pink Bella, you've also been involved with the dark side, right? Like everybody's had that exposure. And I'm like, no, come on, right? But they were already like preparing me for the other information that was going to come that I wasn't ready to look at yet. And then I just started asking questions, and I knew a big portion of what I came in to heal was my ancestral lineage, which I think a lot of people don't truly know, that many patterns that they're carrying within are actually just imprinted on them, not only from their personal karma, but also the ancestral. I didn't even want to look at my ancestral lineage for the longest time because I thought, I don't know what they've been up to. Like, I don't know. But Earth is not a walk in the park. Like, it's a big school. Like, that's one thing Dolores Cannon said. It's a big school down here. We have the ability to remember so much and to heal so much and to elevate and assist humanity if that's the path we choose. But we may have to go through a bunch of the dark nights of the soul, or whatever we want to call that, where we're going to get stuck. I call it like we get stuck in a loop because we're trying to figure things out and we're not allowed to. They've literally shown me in my third eye, you kind of get into a tunnel where the door closes at the end and you can't go to the other tunnel until you deal with whatever's in front of you. But I started realizing that I was the one that chose to come in to clear the ancestral lineage for my ancestors. Like, nobody else in my family is doing it. And that I got that answer when I asked one day. They're like, yeah, you're it. So I think part of it too is we're remembering what the game plan is that we made up for ourselves when we came in. So for some of us, like myself, we came in to do everything. We came in to clean up our own personal karma, clean up the ancestral lineage, help humanity, clear up any galactic stuff that we may have brought in that might be like, hanging around us, and get it all done. So that's kind of how I got into the Akashic Records. So I tap in with someone's higher self and their team of light, with Prime Source before a session, and just ask for kind of some keywords, some direction. I still pull some cards for people, like Oracle cards and tarot, because I like the show and tell aspect of it, but the information is just channeled in from their higher self. So I'm assisting others that don't really have their intuitive abilities, really aren't full on yet.
Oh, yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
So do you have like your own practices, like energetic cultivation of any kind that you kind of go to?
In what way? Like in the...
Well, more traditionally for me, I teach people Nidan, which is internal alchemy.
Oh, cool.
And so we shape the energetic architecture internally so that you're the maestro of the 50 trillion cells of your body and direct the 0.07 millivolts of electricity in every cell.
Wow.
And you literally turn into a plutonium dump site. So you can concentrate that energy at will and transmute it in any way you want. That's kind of like where I was going with it. And,
Okay. I just wanted an idea. I have done, I have done like group sessions with people, and sort of take them through like group meditations. But I feel like what my process is, what I have figured out is that everybody is a bit different that comes to me, and what might work for you might not work for someone else. That's why I tap in with source and their higher self as to ask. Like the Divine Mother and the goddesses really started coming in strongly with me last fall as well. I've been working with them off and on for the last 4 years, but last fall they were like, no, this is the essence that you also need to start bringing into clients, because that's what's been missing, is their access to the Divine Mother and the Divine Feminine. And by the way, everyone, I'm not religious. I didn't get brought up in a religious environment. So this was another like scratching my head, figuring things out, which is interesting that the Pleiadians came to me before the angelics, because I guess they felt that I would remember them more, easily. I'm not sure. Anyway, it's like a puzzle piece. We're putting things together, but I even in the group trainings, I see in individuals this stubbornness of, I just want someone else to do it for me. I don't want to heal myself. But I have had recently, I had a client, she's like, well, I think I'm going to go take Reiki. And I said, that's fantastic. Like that's you stepping into, I want to learn more about energy. And, Reiki's not perfect, but it's an example of like starting to understand energy manipulation and sending energy long distance and that kind of thing you're building up. So I have that's what I have felt. I'm not so big on teaching, and I think that's because I went to teachers for years, and I also used to have to train people when I was in corporate. So I do it. I do have group calls a few times a year, but it's not my favorite thing to do.
It's not my favorite.
but you know what I love? But I do give clients tools. So their higher self will give me specific tools to give to them after a session, and then I'll just send them on their way. And I've started a mentorship program too, and I'm empowering people to find their own essence, their own uniqueness, like not doing the cookie cutter thing like we talked about. Like I could teach, this is my process, but my process might not be your process. And you and I are both sharing, like we have different processes that are bringing different results. And what I'm trying to empower people to find their own process, because that's what I had to do. And that's how we're in our integrity, because we know like we either had a really good teacher that we resonated with, that we received a lot of information from that was ours, or we're going to source every day and we're asking, like, what do I need to learn today? What I need to listen to? So yeah, I do give tools to empower clients to help them move forward, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of a fundamental thing that, in my opinion. But so
yeah, I know. Well, apparently I give notes after my session, and apparently a lot of people don't do that. That's my corporate training. Just typing up notes and send people notes, right? So they've got something, because I don't remember, you've probably seen so many clients. So, I mean, I maybe you do remember, I don't know, but I have to go back.
When you're like channeling is an interesting beast. I had a guy on who's been in the game for a long time, like myself, and old school channeling is this, like, when you have possession of something that's basically commandeering your physical flesh, which is basically what channeling is. Normally, he was old school. He's traveled around the world and trained under quite a few different people, including some of the people I've trained under. That you teach people how to do these feats of superhuman capability, like enveloping my forearm, driving a skewer through my arm, pulling it out, and there's no blood and there's no insertion or exit. This is all a state of consciousness and being able to transmute that transmuting
Well,
physical
hopefully
flesh
I won't need that
into.
skill.
Well, yeah, it's like a shift of consciousness. But
Yeah,
when you're
absolutely.
channeling, he was kind of real old school. He goes channeling, and for me, when I'm channeling, it affects the actual physical cellular structure. So I can put when I'm channeling Latsu, I can put my hand like this and light a flame or a lighter under my hand and leave it sit there, and it doesn't affect the flesh at all. Like you could consciously, the most I've done it for is maybe 5 or 10 minutes. But like
Right.
you pull it away and you go, hang on, there's no burn, there's nothing. You're just in another state. And so he's a little bit more of an old school guy. He has his special channeling knife that he takes with him, and he'll run it over the top of your flesh. And if it doesn't cut, then you're definitely channeling. Now he doesn't have the insight to look at the auras and things of that nature the way you and I do, but
Yeah.
he's kind of like old school. That's how I do it. I'm like, whoa, buddy, that's the flame is one thing, but you're
Well, if
attempting
you
to
think
cut over the
what
flesh.
people that you've trained with or that he's trained with, like they might not even be around anymore.
Well, yeah, there's quite a few of them that are not, but
Yeah.
it's like
So
this
yeah. So
is
that
this is sort of like a state though, and I
yes.
understand it because it alters your DNA. It's never the
Yes.
same.
And
It's never.
probably I would say it would alternate your frequency as well.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
You're a whole nother level of resonance, and
I'm
that's kind
very
of like,
excited about this frequency thing now because now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start testing myself before and after sessions and etc.
yeah,
Like even like it would I don't so I don't know how you were through the eclipse. I don't know if you noticed it or you noticed an energy change or
yeah. I
whatever.
mean,
But
the it was a low. There was like Latsu went through this month, so each day had a high and a low. That was a low. The
interesting.
following day, the number 9 was a high. So that's
Yeah.
where everyone was like, "Holy crap! I'm high as a kite. I feel so
Well,
euphoric and blissful and everything." And he just said, "Well, it's going to be a low. It's not going to be in what you would consider a negative. It's just a lower point. So you're going to be more in the very construct of humanness, in the sense of whatever the catalyst of your human desire is, it's going to be more representative of a low expression, i.e., maybe depression, sadness, grief, fear.
whatever.
Whereas the
Yes.
following day was a huge high expression of love,
Well, and I
unconditional
would have liked it
love.
anyway because it was a 9.
Yeah, yeah.
But no, what I felt like we went through a big timeline jump, and I
Mm.
felt like a lot of souls were being like some are still landing, some I think still haven't even chosen their timeline, but I felt like there was like this timeline split where a lot of us did move into like a higher frequency, and then then the people that were in fear are probably still playing in that reality. I'm not sure, but I start to notice sometimes when I'm in 5D, I'll go out and there'll hardly be any cars on the road. It'll be really quiet. But the other day I went out, was it Saturday? Oh my, there were so many cars and I was like, whoa. And I don't worry about it anymore. I don't worry about it like it's something that I'm projecting. I just think, oh, I'm doing grid work today. I'm supposed to be here in this reality. So that's how I look at it now. But it's such a difference. It's such a difference. But I don't know about you, son, but I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying the game a little bit more now. But I wanted to ask how it was for you because I feel like you were closer to the
Yeah.
totality. Like we didn't have. I was farther north, so we didn't have the
Yeah, no,
totality.
I mean, it all has a frequency. It has an altered frequency on the earth without
Yes.
question. But people were dramatically like, embodying this fear, death, and destruction.
Yeah.
Fear, death, and destruction. Wash,
Well,
rinse,
it seemed
repeat.
like a little bit of an agenda. Like I thought people aren't you seeing that? Aren't you seeing the
Well, there was a person in California that literally was an astrologist, and clearly she was being possessed by something because she woke up that day. This was all over the news,
oh,
and
I didn't see
she
that. Okay.
and she woke up, and in an edited version, she took an object and ran it through her fiance, instantly transitioning him to a new life.
Oh
Then took
wow.
her 2 daughters, drove out on the 405, and kicked them out in oncoming traffic. One was transitioned immediately, the other one made it, and then she continued by driving her vehicle at 100 miles an hour into a tree, and she transitioned.
Wow, I did not
So
hear that at all.
and she was going on about don't, ranting up until that day about don't look at the eclipse and all this sort of stuff. And it's like, you know, this is where you really need to master your discernment and and affirming what is
Yeah.
true.
Yeah. Well, and also like if that's a tool, if that's your business, if that's what you're doing, but you don't have any tools to kind of make sure that you're grounded and you're part of like, I just kept getting to be in nature. I was in like I wasn't that day, but I was up until then. Like to me, nature is the go-to. It's the realignment. Like if something's happened and everything's gotten super busy, I too need a realignment to get me back into the now, and nature will do it in like 2 seconds for
Yeah.
me. It just realigns me. So that's it came in every single reading I did for people. Just go to nature. Just make sure you're being grounded. Like,
Yeah.
don't you turn off your phones, turn off like all the noise.
Yeah.
So obviously you're right. She probably was, she had gotten into that fear vortex and something had
Which
jumped
is,
in her.
I mean, which is a tragedy for
So
herself,
sad.
her
Oh,
daughter,
yeah.
her husband.
Oh, so sad.
I mean,
Yeah.
and in evidence based, from
I
everything
know.
that she's sharing with me right now, she's trapped in an earthbound experience for quite some time due
Yeah.
to, the being commandeered by a really low watt energy that has not resolved itself by any stretch.
Yeah.
And, wasn't expecting to go,
No.
which a lot of situations when I come across that, 99% of the time it's like, oh, I was just joking. It's too late now.
Yeah,
You know what I
exactly.
mean? I didn't mean, no, that wasn't what I meant. Well, due to the distortion from what one of my dear friends, a Buddhist monk, would say, the dukkha, which is the distortion that he's always observing. He's looking for the emotional content, which is the distortion. And so he's observing. And so that was, very tragic. Not that I'm passing judgment on her and
No,
giving
no,
pity,
no.
but it's like,
But that's an example of someone who felt like they were channeling in something of the light of the positive message, and they weren't at
well, I mean,
all, you know?
I think,
Yeah, go
no,
ahead.
I was just going to say, I think both of us agree that if you're channeling something and it's telling you to do that, then it's not of a high frequency, in my
No, I
opinion.
agree. Yeah. I started pulling out of even listening to anybody a couple of days before. And I saw some people spinning out on my YouTube channel, and I just deleted the comments. One of them was a regular client. I just deleted the comments because I thought it's not, this is like when we're getting into, it's still a movie, right? It's still like you're getting involved in this story that they want to keep your frequency. Like as soon as I figured out a long time ago about, oh, it's a game, they want my frequency to be low. Sorry, not playing that game. Too bad. Bye bye. I actually had in February, went through a massive initiation around lower demonic beings, which I've never looked at, and I've never. So I was like, "Oh, fun! This is like, I guess I need to know about them right now." And they would. I did finally figure out what was going on. I pieced it all together. I cleaned everybody out. Everyone got moved out of my apartment, and I found out that they had come through 3 portals, and one portal came through people that had sent them to me because they didn't want me to go. They were jealous and they didn't want me to go and do something. I was like, what? So anyway, no judgment, cleared it all out. But then because I thought, okay, well, there's leaks, right? There's leaks in my security. They are coming through. But what I learned through that is that like they're so funny. They still will once in a while bring a little calling card, and a car will drive by with a 666 on it, and I just giggle now. Sorry, not interested. Hanging up the call. But during it,
Yeah.
so I live in a building that like I'm facing a parking lot, and there's no real parking in front of my building. One day I went out to go do something, and there was literally a car parked on the front steps with a 666 on the license plate, and I didn't. It was at the beginning of it. So I was just like, "Oh, thank you, universe. That's so cool." Like, and I just wandered away, right? Not knowing like that was actually a message from the other team, but that's okay. So, and then they also sent me a client that was possessed. And that's not my forte. Like, and I thought,
Wow.
and I was also going, how did he find me? Like, that's why I asked you how you found me, but I'm thinking, how did this other person find me? Because he's being directed by these entities. Well, it was a game to them.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
I could not get him to be in the now for like a second on. It was really tough session. So I just, after that, told him he needed to find somebody who was, that was their specialty,
Yeah.
because it was way over my
Yeah.
head. But you know what? I had never had that experience in this life. I'd never dealt with any of that before. I didn't even know if it still existed. I wasn't sure. So
Oh yeah, you crush. I normally crush those type of energies
I was just like,
pretty quickly.
boom, bye, see you later, boom, yeah. And
It always the resolve is love, but
absolutely,
it
yeah,
can't be a subjective love. And when I say
yeah,
that, the audience knows what I'm talking about. It's like you always start out with your hallmark version of love: razor
yeah,
blades and bunny rabbits, or unicorns and rainbows.
yeah,
There's a hallmark version. When you access a resonance of the universal state that we speak of, then all of a sudden it becomes realized. But there may be a few growing pains leading up to that
yeah,
resonance.
absolutely, yeah. And I actually, well, I transmute it, into unconditional love, and have I have, team members that come in to assist me. And I've got this other thing now. I've become a bit of a warrior. Return to sender if it's necessary. I'm not here to make that call. Like, that's, before, for years it was all love and light, and I am still love and light, but now I just added that, transmute it and take it back to source, and or return to sender if that's what the lesson's supposed to be, because I don't know.
Right.
I'm not making the call. So it's just all about, they picked on my cat, so that was the drawing the line in the sand. I'm like, no, you don't. He's my Starseed kitty cat. He's only 4 years old, and he's just trying to protect the space. And yeah, yeah. So
Hell no.
I
That's
was
not
like, that's right. That's what
not
I
up
said.
in here. Not up.
Not here. No, no, you crossed the line.
I love it.
So, but I had to ask how they found me, because I shift my frequency pretty
Yeah.
quickly, and it's pretty high. And I was like, what went on? It turned out, I guess you might have more information about this. They showed me a slot machine that they came out with 3 6s. They had 3 access points, and when the third one came in, jackpot, and they were able to send things to me.
Wow.
I know. So I was exhausted, and I had to go in and ask what was going on.
Whoa.
But I love the jackpot thing. I thought that was a really good symbolism.
Wow. Wow.
And
That is really, wow.
yeah, one of them was ancestral, and I wasn't judgmental about it at all. It turned out that it came through my dad's lineage, and it had been there a long time. So this is like, for everyone who's watching, a lot of times when we go through things and we're healing ourselves, we're not just healing ourselves, we're healing like the lineage, and we're closing off a timeline that we didn't even know was there. So
Wow.
my dad wouldn't have known it was there. So he left home very young, and I saw it was just something that had attached to his bloodline. Yeah.
Dormant.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, long gone,
Yeah.
but
Well,
that was me becoming a warrior this
woo,
year.
woo.
I know. I'm like, I'm just picking a little aloha. What are you picking on me for? Like, what's this? But whoever we work with, as you know, they will step back as well. Like, oh, this is actually good. This is a good lesson for her. This is a good elevation for her. It'll get her to the next level. She'll be able to help more people if they've had experiences like this, because you've, I think, had more clients than me, but people will have weird paranormal experiences, like ghost-like
Yeah.
experiences in their houses and property and all
Yeah.
sorts of things. Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
you, I meant to ask you, I normally do like 9 lives leading up to this one. Do you,
Oh,
do you
cool.
work with their 9 live, any type of
Oh yeah,
passing?
somebody asked me about that recently. So I probably did in the beginning. I probably worked for them like on a 7-year cycle. Now I just ask their higher self in their teams, what galactic, is it galactic? Is it on planet? Is it ancestral? And whatever lifetimes for the highest good we need to clear, like
Yeah.
laser focused. So because I feel like there are akashic readers out there that get right down into the nitty gritty of all the notes. And that's not me. I'm like the overview. Give me the pieces of the puzzle. So as example, like a client might come in and they might have an ancestral piece. They might have something that they're healing from the fall of Atlantis. They might have a personal trauma from childhood. And then they might have like, oh, traumatized in the galactic wars in the Orion system. and landed here to get home. All that kind of never know with my sessions what's going to come in. It's so cool. I love it. But then I just ask for the highest good, whatever we can clear for the highest good, like that their physical avatar can handle the clearing.
Beautiful, beautiful. I mean,
Yeah.
For the audience, once again, there's no right or wrong way up the mountain. There's a million ways to get there, and this is why, you know, conversations like the one we've had today has been so important for people, because they just get, the audience gets something out of it, no matter what it is. And it's always great to have the conversation with like-minded masters like yourself that are attuned into this state, and you're here for the higher good, the conscious collective. And that's what we're here to do. And if you're not you know, moving in that community state, then what are you doing? That's my opinion. What are you doing here?
I agree. Well, I feel like the souls that are not in their integrity, or they haven't done their healing, they're going to have to this year. Something's going to come their way. And I think that that's the other thing. I had a session with a recent client too, and the message came in like, whole world's not supposed to be on your shoulders. You're not supposed to worry about every single little thing that's going on in the planet, because every soul is working through their own system and through their own karma, including the non-humans. And it's all part of it. So I was trying to share with her, we don't even know when stories come our way anymore unless we're there, what's actually going on. So that brought her back into now. By the time she came to me, she had a lot of weight on her shoulders about a lot of things that were unfolding or not unfolding quickly. I've been there a million times. You know, I can get involved in like what's going on in our country in like 2 seconds, and then I have to, that's when I'm like, pull myself out.
Note to the audience, this is the good old fashioned, when you don't make it about yourself, your life is effortless.
And I don't know who said it, but it's a play, it's a movie, it's an ongoing story. It's going to continue whether we're here or not. So when I started asking the questions, like, how do I get from here to here? Like, let's say it was a house move. How do we get from here to here? And they would say, oh, well, we have to train you. We've got to train you in another skill, and you're going to train a bunch of other people. And so I've had to be in my integrity. And I realized that that's what I've signed up for. And I've changed it, I've changed it along the way, because obviously we come down here and it's different than what we planned. Like you and I talked before the show, like we get to a crossroads and we're like, I'm not enjoying this anymore. I kind of want to go this way. That's what we have to choose to do. But if we don't, I don't know about you, but if I don't even look at non-integrity ways anymore. But let's say a few years ago, I tried to fast track something. I got a slap on the hand. Right. The reason I do things the way I do them too is like, I'm a Gemini. I came in as a Gemini. That's what I chose. I'm impatient. I remember early on, the 2 key words for me were learning patience and love. So it's like to embody love and to be patient for things to unfold. But the impatient part of me is like, there has to be a better way. Right? There has to be like a unique way where somebody just presses a button and we can just all move on. So yeah.
Get it done.
Hit the button. Let's go.
Let's
move everybody into, get her done. Get everybody into New Earth. Let's go.
Well, this has been an incredible conversation today. Now,
I've really enjoyed it. Yeah.
I want to put all your social media under this podcast, and I want everyone to come and look for you and find you. Before we get into your offering to the audience as to what it is, come and find Pink Bella Aloha and get your reading, get your Akashic attunement, get your realization of what exactly you're doing here and what's the game plan, how to get there. And she's a master at what she does and has been doing it for many, many, many years. So before we close out with you just sharing how you want to share it with the audience, like, oh, just come and find my social media, book in here, do this. I'm going to ask you one last question.
Sure.
What is your definition of consciousness?
Oh, I think for me, it's being multidimensional and looking at everything from a higher perspective, but that there's all different parts to being conscious. So yeah, consciousness to me is like an expansion of being able to see everything from many different levels and being awake. We can go back to Jim Morrison. He used to scream at the audience, "Wake up." way back in the 60s, right? And it's like, yeah. So, and not being like we talked about, not learning not to be judgmental, that everybody's on their own journey and it's taking everybody some time to
Right.
wake up. Yeah.
Well,
So that,
I want the audience to remember too. You channel people. Maybe there's somewhere that you're interested in that you want to know about. Do you do it at sort of like request, or specifically if they come to you, or how does that work?
I started doing deep dives with famous people on Rumble and a little bit on my YouTube. So they can find it in the social media links on YouTube. And then if it's something really that I feel is not YouTube G rated, I've done a
Oh,
few on Rumble
oh wow.
recently. Yeah, I did one
What-
on the royal family recently, and I wasn't too sure if YouTube would like that. So I did.
Oh, right. You know, that's
Yeah.
something that I have to contend with too. What is this? Oh, your channel's been erased. What?
Yeah.
Oh, you
Well,
put the wrong
I'm
information
very
on.
okay. So in 2020,
Mhm.
the game got ramped up and people started getting removed from YouTube.
Wow.
So I made a conscious choice along the way, because I probably have more followers on YouTube than anywhere, to still get my message out, but sometimes speak in code. And then I started my Rumble channel, I think a year ago. And then if I feel like there's something I record that might be a little bit, because now there's all AI nanobots scanning everything. So they can just pick up on a few words and go, no, don't want that. So I just thought I'll do G-rated stuff on YouTube, and then I can do like a
All
little
right,
deeper
right.
stuff on Rumble. Yeah, but I haven't done as much as I want to do, but I just started doing the famous people recently because
Yeah,
because it's kind of a hobby. It's kind of interesting, right? Like they're gone now. What were they up to?
I love pop culture. I love that whole.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think we're just learning so much about the music and the movie industry now. We had no idea that back then these individuals who thought they were just going to Hollywood to be famous, or be in a rock band, that they probably were told that they needed to do a bunch of things they didn't want to do. Yeah, really sad. So anyway, but I looked into Canada. So I'm in Canada. We've been imprinted by the royal family our whole lives, and I don't look at them at all anymore. I actually haven't paid attention to them at all. But there was something recently about Kate Middleton hasn't really been seen since December. She's the Princess of Wales. She's supposed to be in line for the Queen. She's kind of vanished. So that was an interesting, like, I feel like I'm an investigative reporter. So that to me was a little bit of a juicy story
Wow.
to look into, because it would be like if Princess Diana was still alive and she just vanished. Wouldn't people want to know where she was?
Yeah, I got plenty of stories of that.
Oh, we'll do another talk about that.
The amount of celebrities I've come across, your eyes would go.
Oh, I'm sure. And I think that I think what's cool is I'm okay now about whatever their stories are or whatever's happened, because I understand like there's way more going on down here than what we thought, right? So anyway,
Well, yeah. I mean, my personal interaction physically, and then on the spirit realm, that's another story. But physically, dozens of these types of people, you would be shocked with the people that I've personally interacted with in the 3D.
I'm sure.
It's kind of like bing.
Yeah,
And people are like,
I'm sure.
holy moly. Yeah. Well, it's just part of the nature of the beast, I think.
It is. And the reason I've sort of have started like tapping into a little bit of this, I think that because my team was saying like start looking at some of this and sharing, because I haven't been, is just to let even my community know and start filtering out to the collective. Like, you got to be prepared for this. Like, this isn't just a fairy tale anymore. Like, a lot of stuff has gone down on this planet from the beginning, and eventually it's gonna evolve into something else, like a higher frequency. But whatever is there right now is still running. It's like an old machine that's still running at its very low frequency. And yeah, I know. I'm sure. I'm sure everybody that I loved, I'm sure they got up to all sorts of shenanigans. So that's okay. That's all right. It's part of our mission, right, son? It's part of our mission.
It is part of our mission. So in closing, just share with the audience, come and find you or where you want them to go. I'm going to have all that under your podcast.
Okay,
But please
perfect.
share with the audience what you want them to come and check out.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So email is the best way to get a hold of me. Go to my website. There's all sorts of offers on right now. But if you're looking for like clarity, or what you want to know what your soul mission is, your purpose, maybe you know that you need to do an alignment to clear ancestral patterns, or couple of really cool things right now is I've got a dragon activations package. I also have a clarity package too. But what's the third thing? Learning how to do grid work. Learning how to do grid work with the dragons, that kind of stuff. And the Jedi training is new. So I personally have been going through Jedi training. I've been doing a lot of it in my sleep, and are being guided to do certain things. And then I'm being guided to activate others. And that's, again, coming back into an order of integrity and walking the earth, being in integrity and being peacekeepers as well.
Awesome.
Yeah, I know. So who knew that it was real? But it is.
Yeah.
So that's exciting. Yeah, that's exciting. So anyway, there's two. Like, I work with either the goddesses and the dragons, or Archangel Michael and the Jedi Order and the dragons. So yeah,
that is amazing.
Yeah.
So I want the audience to go out. I want my students, OGs, everyone of the channel to go out and check out Pink Bella Aloha.
Thank you so much, Sam. Thanks, everybody.
I want to thank you for sharing your time with me today. I want to thank the universe for bringing you into my life. I want to thank the audience for sharing their time with us today. And I am your humble servant and Sifu, Taoist Master San Qing. And I'll see you in the next one, guys.